Hi everybody, my name is Jerry Wise and I'm a relationship coach. I help folks learn to self-differentiate, to become themselves, to find their true self, and to express that throughout all of their lives and in all of their relationships. And I help them using family systems theory, which is a very helpful theory in my opinion. It's been a help to me, and I hope it's a help to you as well. Today's video is entitled Overcoming Hidden Anxiety. Well, what is hidden anxiety and what does it look like? And how do you know if you're experiencing it? Well, one of the things we know is that not all anxiety is conscious. Not all anxiety do we feel all the time. But we can be operating out of a dormant anxiety that's within us and that's within the relationship systems that we have. For example, almost all reactivity is a result of hidden anxiety. When we hide, when we run away, when we attack, when we're nagging, when we drink abusively, when we have shame, when we're over serious, when we overfunction, when we underfunction, all of those types of symptoms and problems indicate an underlying hidden anxiety, which also equates to systems anxiety. So when you hear me say hidden anxiety, when you hear me say systems anxiety, they are interchangeable in this video. So you'll be hearing me say those things a lot. Now, out there in the world and on YouTubes and other books, workbooks, lots of podcasts, they talk a lot about acute anxiety, which I'm glad they do. People do experience anxiety disorders. They have acute anxiety, which and phobias and OCD symptoms. All of those are anxiety type of symptoms and problems. And we experience that kind of acute anxiety, and we need treatment or help or recovery for those things. And I'm glad those videos are out there. Learning how to breathe, doing yoga, meditating, cognitive changes, reframing, changing the meaning of things in our lives can help reduce anxiety. Changing how we perceive it can reduce anxiety in terms of acute anxiety. But I really haven't heard much or many people talking about the hidden anxiety, which resides in the system and in which we hold inside ourselves, only to be triggered time and time and time again. And so that hidden anxiety, I think, resides back here, that fight or flight anxiety that's back here that has been there for hundreds of thousands of years or has been there since we were children in our family of origin. It's the things we are imprinted with from long ago, from our childhood, and we hold and reside and carry today. Another thing that's important is there's not a lot on hidden anxiety. I wanted to talk about that today. Is that hidden anxiety rubs off on people. It's contagious. It's also sticky. In other words, we'll get caught up in it and caught up in the stickiness. If someone is afraid of flying and we're going to go out to the airport or we're going to fly, they may feel some anxiety about flying. They have acute anxiety about flying. Generally, acute anxiety is not as sticky or contagious. In other words, I might go out with them and go, well, I don't fear flying or flying on a plane. So, or maybe I have anxiety of flying on a plane to a 1. Theirs is to an 8 or a 9 on a 10 scale. But it doesn't make my 1 go up much, if any, if they're anxious. So acute anxiety isn't necessarily contagious like that. However, hidden anxiety and systems anxiety is contagious. And it will ping other people, and we will ping other people, and often it's out of our awareness. So, hidden anxiety rubs off on people. Also, hidden anxiety is anxiety that we are holding on to, and when I say holding on to, that kind of makes it sound like there's a willful choice to hang on to it. We're holding that anxiety. Maybe it's better to say we hold that anxiety from previous experiences and from our family of origin and from long ago, maybe 5 generations ago. Each generation has an intergenerational transmission of this anxiety. And, a great-grandfather who commits suicide expels a lot of hidden anxiety within the system that can affect grandchildren and great-grandchildren, because it's a traumatic event and it then pings the whole system and can ping down through the generations. And this is that hidden anxiety. So the hidden anxiety is sticky, will cause us to react and get pinged. Whereas if somebody has anxiety to flying, I'm not going to, unless I have an anxiety to flying, if I don't, I'm probably not going to be pinged by it. And I'll probably be compassionate and say, oh, I'm so sorry. Here, what we're going to do to help make you comfortable, and I'll tell you what's going on the plane, and it'll be okay. I'll be right here with you. But it's not pinging me in a way in which I'm reacting. However, if somebody says, I don't know why you were so stupid to choose this flight. Well, now, wait a minute. That pings a different level of anxiety than the flying anxiety. Now that pings the interrelational anxiety that's within our system, in which there's some demeaning or criticism going on. And now I start to get pinged from the internal hidden anxiety. Let me give you, for example, we often, and of course, let's say somebody said, well, why did you choose this stupid flight for us to go on? Now I get pinged. My first reaction is to do what? Defend myself? What's the only flights that were available? I looked and looked and looked. I asked you if you wanted to check and see if there was a flight you could go on, and you never checked on it. So I went ahead and did it. And now I'm into all that. So I got pinged. My hidden anxiety or insecurity that's very deep and often unconscious gets pinged, and then I start to talk. And I start to have symptoms, and I start to have problems because of that pinging. And of course, one of the first things in common when we do is to defend ourselves. Then we go into self-defense. Well, I tried this, I looked at that. You didn't tell me what times you wanted to go. You didn't tell me what airline you wanted to go on. And now we both are now pinging and charging each other with this hidden anxiety. One of the things that self-defense does when we go into self-defense is that it keeps the anxiety in me and in you there. It doesn't take it out. It keeps it existing in there. They will hold on to theirs. I will hold on to mine. We're now just acting it out now. We're not resolving it. We're not detaching from it. We're just ping, 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 ping until we're done or angry. Well, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore. And I walk off. The anxiety's still there. I didn't change it one bit. We just had this argument about it. And then they come back and say, I probably shouldn't have told you that. Well, thank you. I don't think you should have. That was rather mean. Now, we're getting along better, but their anxiety, hidden anxiety, my hidden anxiety is still there, waiting to be pinged again. Hopefully we can work on that today and talk about how and reduce that hidden anxiety so it doesn't just stay there, even if we go through these whole interactions with people. Remember, self-defense is not about defending self. It's about defending the system and keeping it in place. Self-defense keeps the system in place, and it keeps the anxiety in them and the anxiety in me. It protects that anxiety so it doesn't change. Well, why did you choose that stupid flight? I don't know why you chose this stupid flight. Because they got pinged because of the flight. They're upset because of the flight. Then they send that over to me, a hot potato over to me. Now I'm pinged and I'm upset about it. Now I'm defensive about it. And then they're going, oh, I don't know why you get so defensive. You're always so sensitive. You're just too sensitive. And so we're just going back and forth with that anxiety continuing its pinging. And then once we get over it, or once it ends, the anxiety goes back down, but it doesn't change. It just gets riled up and then goes back down. But it doesn't reduce, nor do we unplug ourselves from that. And so today I'd like to talk to you about unplugging ourselves from that so that we can continue to grow over time and become more calm, and we don't work so hard to protect the anxiety in the relationship systems that we have. We defend that anxiety all the time and we don't even realize we're doing it. And I'll be giving you examples. Well, here, let me use this as an example. Let's use the I don't know why you chose this stupid flight. Because they're all flustered and upset. And then I go, well, what did I do wrong? I was just trying to help out and you wouldn't do it. And you wouldn't do it. So now I'm going to ping them back. Well, you wouldn't do it. I don't know why, or you're lazy, or you weren't helping. And they go, well, but you should have thought through this. And we do all that. We're doing all of these actions while not changing the underlying anxious system. We're not changing it a bit. We're just reenacting it and reliving it over and over. So when you're defending yourself, for example, and we're using a self-defense example, where I have to defend myself from them thinking it was a stupid flight, it's like fighting a fire using charcoal lighter fluid. So the fire starts, and then I start squeezing the charcoal lighter fluid to put it out. Well, what happens? It just gets worse. But we think we're putting it out because I'm putting this liquid on here. Let me give you another example. It's like a tsunami coming from the ocean, and we get out a fire hose with very high pressure of water and trying to stop the tsunami. That's actually what we're doing in the system. When we defend ourselves, when we get reactive, we're only giving the system back what it already has in it. And if you can unlock that, and if you can change that, you can change yourself. And you don't have to change other people to do it. Because the only work you can do is yours. You can't do their work and you can't change them. You can only look and see the system and go, oh, this is a burning building. Maybe I should go and get some water, or I should walk away from the building and not pour charcoal fluid lighter on it, or gasoline, or petrol. Maybe I should not do that. But that takes a great amount of courage and insight to do that, because we're so used to giving to the system what's already there. We just keep doing that. We did that in our family of origin growing up. We do that as adults as well. And hopefully it will become clearer as we move along. And so we get the pinging starts to happen. Why are you so stupid? And I was talking to clients even today and yesterday, and they were talking about their parents, and they realized how much their parents projected onto them their own struggles and problems. Why are you so stupid? Translate the parents saying, I'm stupid. I don't know why I'm so stupid, but I'm going to criticize my daughter or child or son, and ask them why they're so stupid and acting so stupid. So they're getting pinged because you've embarrassed them, or you've not passed the test, or you're not going to be as good as other kids, whatever issue they have for themselves, and then they're going to ping you. They feel pinged, now you feel pinged. And we as kids, we don't know what to do. We're going, I don't know why I'm so stupid. I didn't know I was stupid. But I guess I am because Mom and Dad said I was. So I guess I am. Second of all, they may say, you don't love me. Well, we need to just flip that around. Projection is what always happens when pinging and reactivity happens. You don't love me is the same as saying, I don't love myself. But it will come out as you don't love me. And then we get confused. And then we get pinged. If they could turn that question into, why don't I feel loved, rather than you don't love me, or why don't you love me, but they can't do that because that's not the nature of the system they grew up in. It's not the nature of the system that you grew up with them. So they say, you don't love me. You never have loved me as a kid, as a daughter. And why do you like to see your father so miserable? Well, because Mom's saying, why do you like to see your father so miserable? It's her saying, why do I not like seeing him so miserable? Or why do I like to see him so miserable? And then it gets projected onto you as a kid, and then we hear that question and go, I didn't even know I was happy about seeing him miserable. And in fact, as kids, we absolutely aren't happy about that. We'd like it to be opposite. And so what we begin to do is to disconnect from that pinging and the hidden anxiety that's there. By the way, if I ask any of these people when they said, why are you so stupid? Why don't you love me? Why do you like to see your father so miserable? If I said to them, do you feel any anxiety? What do you think they would tell me? Well, no. What do you mean anxiety? I don't feel any anxiety. It's just this stupid child who's acting silly and embarrassing me that I'm going to tell them to stop being so stupid. They've passed right over the anxiety. They've never been able to see it. Because the anxiety happens first, then the shame, then the rejection, then all kinds of other guilt. Then there's all kinds of other feelings that happen after that. It's the system's anxiety that happens first. Then all these other feelings begin to happen. And so, when you learn about family systems, you learn to address the system's anxiety and not just the symptom. In other words, if somebody says, you don't love me, I can address the symptom by saying, well, that's nonsense. Yes, I do. That's crazy. Dad, stop telling me I don't love you. That's not true. Now, that's addressing the symptom, but I'm not addressing the underlying anxiety that he felt to tell it to me and that I felt before I got reactive and wanted to defend myself. I'm not addressing the core underneath. And so we do that by these type of moves because we start to see how this works and go, hey, there must be anxiety underneath this. So how can I be myself and not trigger them and not allow myself to be triggered by them? And then what response might I have? Why are you so stupid? Well, because I am at times. Now I've addressed the underlying anxiety. I feel calmer. I'm not adding more anxiety to the system, and I'm not defending myself. Now I can ask them, if they're a friend, I don't like you telling me or suggesting that I'm stupid. I don't appreciate that. I'd like you to stop. But if it's a parent or if it's, I can say, or even a friend, I don't know. I am at times. So, what's your point? Because I've unplugged from that hidden anxiety that's present. What about, you don't love me? Well, I'm sure my love can vary, but actually, I've never thought of that. I've never had those thoughts that I don't love you. So I'm real confused. I'm neither reacting, I'm neither self-defending, I'm staying on my side of the tennis net, they're on their side of the tennis net, and I'm going, I don't know what that experience is over here on my side, because I've not had those feelings of, today I don't think I will love my mother. I'm just planning on doing that today. I've never had those. I've never thought, I don't love her. I may have thought, I'm angry with her, I'm upset with her. So, did she love me? Do I love her? I can question that, but it's not like I sit around going, I know I don't love them. And that was an intentional thought. So I've never had that thought before. I don't know how to respond. I've never had that thought. Whoever's telling you, a best friend, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, you don't love me. Sorry, Bob, I've never had that thought. So I don't know what to do. And so I stay in place. I stay out of the anxiety. He may still be pinged, but at least I'm not and contributing more to this hidden anxiety. It at least helps me with my hidden anxiety, which can keep things calmer and more rational. And if your mother tells you, as an example, there are many examples it can be, why do you like to see your father so miserable? I've never had those thoughts before, Mom, so I wouldn't know why. What am I addressing? The actual content of it? In a little way, I'm answering the content of it, but I'm more addressing her anxiety pinging of that for me. And going, I'm not pinged by this, I'm not going to be pinged by this, because actually, when someone makes these kind of statements, they either want to keep enmeshment going, they want to be controlling, they're feeling afraid, fearful, having anxiety in within them, and they will say these things. I want to stay out of that. I want to stay out of their process. But our reactivity keeps us in their process. And I don't want to be in their process. I have enough trouble with my own process. I don't want to be in theirs. I have my own struggles. I don't want to try to act within the system struggles, because it's overwhelming, and we often get overwhelmed many, many times. We often think of having anxiety, and we're not aware that we hold anxiety for the family or for the system. We hold it. We've been holding it since we were very young. And so that's something that we want to think about, that we're always holding some anxiety. The work I do for myself, the work I do in helping others, is to help them to reduce that held anxiety, so they can reduce that held anxiety and be more mature, more self-differentiated, more grown up. I'm certainly not perfectly mature, grown up, or, I have plenty of my own reactivities and pingings and whatever, but I have a lifetime to spend to work to reduce that hidden anxiety. And now, having worked on that for a number of decades, it feels so much different than it felt when I was in my 20s. And by the way, I'm not in my 20s anymore. Maybe you could tell that. It really makes a difference in reducing that, because the more you can reduce that hidden anxiety and become more calm, the more you can think, the more you can process what's going on around you. Many people will say, well, Jerry, how can you say the comments that you make? They seem so clever, or they seem so... They take practice. They're not clever. I'm not a genius by any means. They are okay, if I'm not going to be pinged, and if I don't want to be, because I'm feeling pinged right now, how can I get myself out of this without pinging them back, but yet maintaining myself? And so I would say, I've never had those thoughts before, talking about Jerry, because they can't define my experience. I've never had those thoughts. So I don't know why I would want Dad to feel so miserable. I'm just being rational. I don't know, and then they're on the other side going, what? Why are you? They're not used to your comments like that because they're self-differentiated comments and interventions, and that's what they're not used to. It can even feel belligerent, or it can feel rebellious, or it can feel negative or hurtful or whatever, or disrespectful to them. And it only feels that way because of the amount of hidden anxiety they have within themselves from their family of origin and what is normal behavior between us. If you don't do this normal behavior or function in this anxiety like you're supposed to, then that's bad and you're being bad. Let me talk about, the more we operate out of the super self of the family, or the super self of the workplace, or the super self of the church, or the super self of all the organizations that we're a part of, the more we operate out of that big super self that we all partake of, which has hidden anxiety in it for everybody. Everybody at your workplace has hidden anxiety from their own family of origin and from the workplace organization itself. Everybody's got hidden anxiety. And you can ping it, because I can go into a workplace anywhere and I can ping people's anxiety. You'll learn that you can do that. Even though this is a very calm coworker, and then you can ping them because they come with hidden anxiety too from their own family of origin, and it can be pinged in the workplace. That's why how workplaces structure their work and their organization can either be one that pings everybody, or it's one that helps reduce the pinging for everyone. Then you tend to be more productive, more working together, more. But that's why you can take a good organization and make it bad. You can take a bad organization and make it good. It depends on what you're going to do with the hidden anxiety that's there and how it gets pinged. If the company doesn't respect its workers, well, then you're going to ping everybody all the time. And then bad things are going to happen as the waves move on out. Okay, well, we're not going to take care of our employees. We're going to scrimp. No bonuses this year, even though they could afford it. No bonuses. And then they go, see, we're saving some money. We're going to save some money this year. And maybe they need to save money. I don't know. But they're going to save some money. Now we've just disrespected everybody, pinged everybody's inside and all their anxiety. They then start to sabotage productivity and efficiency, and they react in that way. And now they're going to cost the company more than what the bonus was going to save because of the pinging that we did. So we want to think about all these dynamics before we just say we're going to do this and that'll be a solution. That's too narrow of a solution. The less self-differentiated we are, the more we are controlled by the hidden anxiety of our family of origin and the relationship system that we're operating in. The less self-differentiated we are, the more we're going to be functioning out of this pinging and out of this anxiety that's hidden anxiety. The more we lack self and having a self, the more vulnerable we are to the dormant systems anxiety that we feel and carry all the time. And so those are some maxims and things to remember. So the more you develop self, the more you learn to see how things are operating, the more you learn ways in which you can detach and unplug from the system's anxiety, the more calm you become, the less social anxiety you have, and the more you're able to function in a healthier way. Let me talk about reversals just a little bit, because some of what the examples that I gave were reversals, and that's one. There are different things you can do. You can make I statements, just being an I statement. I would prefer not to go to the Mexican restaurant. That's an I statement. I prefer and would rather eat chocolate ice cream rather than vanilla. I would prefer to come and visit you, Mom and Dad, once a week rather than 3 times a week. That's an I statement, very straightforward, no playfulness, no paradox, no nothing. It's just straight on. We want to do those. We want to be able to do those. And then as we begin to grow and feel more confident, we can begin to do reversals, which are also us becoming confused about the system's anxiety and the system's logic. Because like you say, well, I don't know why you like seeing your father so miserable. That's hidden anxiety that's being pinged in them and in you. And then second of all, it's systems logic. Like, why would I be happy about Dad being miserable? That doesn't even make sense. Why would I be happy about that? I'm not sitting around gloating going, I'm so glad he's miserable. But the system thinks that's a normal way to think. If you're operating out of the hidden anxiety, that's a normal way to think. Well, you just don't love your mother. Like, now, why would I just not love my mother? I don't know what that would benefit me. I don't know why it would. But in the right system, and if that anxiety is operating in that system, it's going to ping it. And she's going to feel unloved, and then she's going to say, why don't you love me? And you're going to go, what? But because she said, you don't love me, or why don't you love me, it pings your system's anxiety, that's hidden anxiety, often we're not aware of, and now you start to be defensive. You start to defend yourself. You start to get mad. You want to lash out. You want to just leave and run. You want to scream and yell. And we want to do all that. And you can do all of that. It doesn't change the systems and hidden anxiety in her, and it doesn't change the systems or hidden anxiety in you. And that's what we want to address. So, reversals are a way in which, just like Andrew, my son, says to me when he's Dad, you are the worst dad in the world, because I wouldn't let him go play with his son, or his best friend, Tony, at 9 o'clock at night on a school night. Well, he was very young, I'm not going to let him do that. So, you're the worst dad in the world. And I go, well, you're probably right. That's a reversal. It's that intentional disappointment. I'm disappointing you on what you expect me to do, which is to fight with you, argue with you, be self-defensive, because I'm going to, again, self-defense is systems defense. Self-defense defends the anxiety that is latent and dormant within that system. I don't want to defend that anxiety, and I'm not going to, because it's not going to change if I do. But if I do say a reversal and say, well, you're probably right. Now I've just shifted the polarity. No longer am I on the hook. I'm off the hook. And now it's left with Andrew. What is he going to do that? He can't go to Tommy's, and his dad has just agreed he's the worst dad in the world. Now what are you going to do? The problem is left where? With the originator, not with me. The originator was Andrew, who had the problem. I'm going to leave it with him. Now he can either be happy or he can be unhappy. That's up to him. But I'm not going to play around the system's anxiety and defend myself. Oh no, I am a good dad. Look what I've done for you. I've done this and this, and people have said I was a good dad. And the whole thing is not even about my dadship. It's not even about anything. When your mother says, you just don't love me, it's not about you loving her or not. It's about this underlying insecurity, fear, and anxiety that's present in the system and was present with her way back to her childhood. So we shift the polarity. We want to disconnect from this argument, and we want to leave it with the other person. But all of that is done kindly, gently, not reactively. I'm not being mean. I'm not saying, well, it's your problem. That's not self-differentiation. That's an anti-reversal. That's you reacting by saying, well, that's just your problem. It's not mine. That's aggression and anger. You're still getting pinged by the system. If we can calmly accept them and go, well, I think, you may be right. Now I leave it right with them without being reactive, yelling, arguing. And also, can I embrace or accept what I'm going to own? Which means if Andrew says I'm a horrible dad, can I embrace the fact, sure, I can be a horrible dad. That's okay. It really doesn't matter. I'm the only dad he's got. I'm going to have to do this dad thing. So I can accept that. And maybe there are even times I'm not a good dad. There were. Can I be humble? Can I be ego-less? And be able to accept myself that I'm imperfect. And so if somebody says you're imperfect, like, you don't love me like you should. Why don't you love me? Well, because I'm not very perfect. I mean, I don't know, my love varies. I'm just one of those people that just up and down. And then I pull out of it and I'm not pinged at my hidden anxiety level. And can I be humble and egoless to be what they accuse or criticize? Because if somebody says, you are a jerk, Jerry, well, you're probably right. Because I know they're saying it, wanting me to be pinged and engage them on that. I'm not going to engage them on that. I'm not going to do that. So getting back to the point of self-defense is not self-defense. It's systems defense. You're so stupid. Well, yeah, I am at times. Again, kind of a reversal. You don't love me. I'm sure my love can vary. Or I can even say, okay. You don't love me, Jerry. Okay. And again, my point, and your point being is, because the point being is they want you to be reactive and they want you to act and react in this system in a way that keeps the old anxiety going. I don't want to do that. Because it's not going to help me get any better. It's not even going to help them feel more loved. And why do you like seeing your father so miserable? Well, I've never had those thoughts, Dad. So, I don't know. Let me talk about an example of a family I was working with. Names are changed and situation has changed. But let's say Lori is married to John. They're married. They have a young child. Lori has a sister and a mother and a father. There are other people involved, but I'm just going to keep it pretty simple. And so her older sister has always been kind of dysfunctional. The parents are narcissistic. The sister's kind of narcissistic and in and out and older. And Lori's always trying, and her name's Lacey, the older sister. Lori's always trying to get acceptance from Lacey, who kind of, when it's to her advantage, she gives her acceptance. When it's not to her advantage, she pulls it back. But Lori's kind of caught in that dynamic of the family. Now you can already tell there's a whole bunch of hidden anxiety in this system for all that to be working. So that's assumed. So then, recently, she's married to her husband, has a child. I'll tell you how this hidden anxiety creates such a furor for everyone. So, Lacey says, well, Lori and John just had their child, had a severe illness and was in the hospital, and now is home recovering, but hasn't been home that long. Lori had arranged with Lacey because Lacey wanted her to go with her because now we're going to be best buddies and best sisters. And Lori couldn't resist the offer, so she behind John's back said she'd go and didn't tell John. Well, the baby's still coming home with, and John has work, and now she's going to take off and go on a trip. Not that Lori doesn't have a right to take off or get away, or she does. So now it's now found out by John, which actually he had to kind of find it out, that, oh, you've decided to go with your sister. You're not just driving down to another town to see her. You're going to go see her and then go on a trip is what you're going to do. And she says yes. She has to confess it because it's already known. And now they're arguing and upset with each other. Lacey, of course, where's her part in all this? She's fine with Lori and John not getting along. That way, Lori will want to go along with Lacey. Lacey and Lori's mother has some issues with John because she's narcissistic and she can get triggered about anything. And all John has done is tried to help her mom so many times, but her mom just can't accept love for an answer. And so she just creates problems. And so she then gets into it, and she starts siding with Lori and Lacey against John about this trip, which John didn't know anything about, and wondering, our child just got out of the hospital, is this a good time? And then what also we find out is that Lori's mom then talks to depressed dad and is telling him all about this. He starts getting more depressed. And then with the argument and frustration between Lori and John, they're pinged and they're bickering back and forth and arguing and feeling insecure. And, but here Lori's caught between, but I want to make my sister happy so that she'll be happy with me. But yet I know I have a husband and I got to do that. So I don't know what to choose. And so she's indecisive, which only makes things worse. And then John, who has IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, guess what happens? He starts getting symptoms and starts getting sick because of all of this. And then now mom and dad are upset. The child who just got out of the hospital, what's going on with him? He starts to get sick because of all of this hidden anxiety. And if I ask anybody in that whole system, Mom, Lacey, whatever, do you feel anxious or nervous? Well, no. It's just John is that way. Well, no, Lacey is that way. No, I'm not. They're just that way. It's very concrete rather than looking at underneath it. But because of all that pinging going on, you have all of these symptoms happening. And then, so they go to the doctor. The doctor doesn't know all this. They go to a therapist. The therapist doesn't know all this. They go to marriage counseling, let's say. The therapist doesn't know all this. So they're just, here, let me teach you how to not nag and how not to argue. And so everything is done in a piecemeal way, and no one's seeing how the whole system is being pinged. And if you can address that, you can change a lot of what's going on there. The good news is you can begin to work with each person to de-ping themselves, and you can intervene in the system anywhere. So I can even begin to not be pinged if I'm John or Lori or whatever. I got to work on my pinging and my hidden anxiety. And that will help reduce anxiety in my family, in my child, with my wife. Because if we don't, it just gets out of control. And that's why this hidden anxiety is so important to not overlook. And so we have all of this happening just because, and I'll say it began here, but actually when you say beginning, everything in a family systems world is not begun and end. It's always a loop. It's always a multi-dimensional loop that's going around and around. So you just pick a spot where you begin. But there's always things that came before that. For example, I'll say, well, let's start with Lori. Lori's insecurity with Lacey started this whole process. But that process started long ago in other ways. But let's just start there to make it simple. So she then feels insecure, hopes to win her sister's affection and help, because she gets pinged and go, oh, I can go with my sister. We can go have a good time, but I need to keep this from John because I don't know if he'll like this or not. And our son just got out of the hospital. But I got to go do this. And systems anxiety will even cause you to leave your child who is ill, to leave your husband. It will cause you to even do that to get from your sister what you've always wanted. That's how powerful this hidden anxiety can be. And because of her own lack of self, actually she's trying to go with her sister to gain some sense of self, because if my sister likes me, then I can be liked. Then I'm likable and lovable. The sister, as soon as she gets a new boyfriend, by the way, she hasn't had a boyfriend in a while. That's why she's picking up Lori as a friend. As soon as she gets a new boyfriend, Lori's not important. Lori won't matter anymore. So that's going to change. And so, with this pinging that's happening, I lost my train of thought. So when we have all of this pinging happening, it starts with Lori, and then she starts to get pinged, is not aware of the pinging or why she's doing this. Then she starts to make systems decisions without knowing what's going on in the system. Hey, I'll go ahead and go with you, even though I've got a child who needs me, I've got a husband who needs me, and the husband's not an ogre or anything. He would be happy to have her spend time alone. It's just not very good timing to do it right now. So, and they've just built a house, and I mean, it's all wrong. And so now the anxiety starts to build. And then with the enmeshment with Lori and Lacey and their parents, their parents, all that enmeshment, it pings mom, pings dad, pings everybody else, and mom's upset with John because she thinks John's going to keep Lori from going, and all John's saying is, our child just got out of the hospital. Do you think that's a good idea? Why all of a sudden is it so important that you go with your sister now? You just saw her, 3 weeks ago, and you went down to her city and visited her. I mean, do we have to go on a trip across, to another country, a close country, and do that right now? And well, yes, because my self-esteem is on the line. My anxiety over my sense of self is on the line. So I'm going to make all these crazy decisions. And that's when we make pretty crazy decisions. And so everybody's pinged in the beginning of that. And it can affect the whole family. And if you see it with those lenses, you can then begin to see how work systems can be like that. Church organizations, your own family, your larger extended family. Any organization, you can begin to see how the wave of anxiety just spreads all the way through the entire system by one person or even one decision. And so Lori, let's say Lori wants to change that, and she's going, I don't know why everybody's so upset now, Jerry. Let's say she comes to me and says, I don't know why everybody's so upset. I've got my husband upset, I've got Lacey upset, my mom's upset with John, John's upset with the family, John's upset with Lacey because she thinks Lacey's going to drop me as soon as she gets a boyfriend, though she probably will. And, there's just, I don't know what to do, I want to go, but yet our child just got out of the hospital. And so Jerry, well then, why are you choosing Lacey over your husband and your child? Because you are married. Not that you don't have a right to get away, not that you don't have a right to have a vacation, you do. And so you're acting independently of the marriage, which is going to trigger hidden anxiety. Whenever we act independent of a close, intimate relationship, independently without regarding it, we're going to ping the system. It doesn't mean we can do nothing apart from the relationship. We can. I mean, she could have gone on a trip. Maybe she should have gone 6 weeks later. John would have said, fine, please do it. You can need to get away. There's nothing wrong with that. But the timing was so bad and the need for self-esteem was so bad that all of that got disregarded. Then we start feeling not special, we start feeling upset and hurt, and now it just makes the system worse. And so it triggers us when we act independently. And then Lori can go to her husband, and say, you know, John, I want to apologize. I have to go. I did agree with Lacey to go, even though I didn't process it with you, and I wish I had done that. Not that you're in control over me, but I didn't process it. And in fact, I kept it from you. And that's really not a helpful thing if we're married. I did not work with you about this trip. I moved beyond our marriage and chose Lacey, is what I did. And I really do apologize. And see, an apology is much more felt and helped if we have an apology that includes us understanding the wound and how we participated in it. That's what makes remorse and apology really meaningful, is for us to really understand how we played our part in this system. And so Lacey then tells Lori, well, I'm so glad you finally told John. I hope you told him off, that he doesn't make decisions for you. And Lori says, well, you know, I'm not always the best of wives. I should have included him in my decision. Well, why, Lori? You're a grown woman. Why do you have to consult with him? Why do you have to get his permission? And Lori says, well, a grown woman works for unity and includes her husband in major decisions because we have shared life. So I actually wasn't being a grown woman. I was actually being a very immature woman. And again, the reason she was an immature woman is because she was pinging all around in her family of origin. And it was all pinging her, and then we act younger than we should. And then Lacey says to Lori, well, you're just being childish. Grow up and go on this trip and forget what John, Lacey, you're probably right. But the next time I will use a different approach if we decide to take a trip together. So I do a reversal. You're probably right. I'm just so childish. I am childish, but it was childish in going with you. That's really what I'm childish about. And that next time, self-definition, self-differentiation, next time if we decide to take a trip together, I will handle that process differently. But I will be going, and I've talked to John about that. And then Lacey says, oh, you worry too much. You just worry too much. Well, here's a reversal coming up. Well, Lacey, I don't think I worried enough. But it's okay. John and I will get it figured out. So I didn't worry enough, which was an unintentional disappointment. I gave them a response they weren't expecting. And then I said, but John and I's issues will get worked out. So you don't have to beat up John for me needing to talk with him or consult with him. That's my decision to consult with him, because that's what a grown woman does, is consults and negotiates and works out major decisions together with your husband. And so I'm not being childish when I do that. I was being childish in leaving him out. And then Lori's mom, who's kind of has it in for John, because John, they have some issues. I don't know why John has to spoil all you and your sister's fun. He's such a downer. Reversal coming up. Lori says, yeah, Mom, but he's my downer. And I love him. I created this mess, Mom. John didn't. Oh, I don't think. And then, Mom would say, Lori, I just don't understand you. I know, Mom. I'm hard to understand at times. Now, how is Lori interacting with all of those responses? How is Lori interacting in this highly charged, hidden anxiety pinged system? She's now operating outside of all that rather than because of all that. And that's what we want to learn to do, to operate outside the hidden anxiety. And I think that's a very important point that needs to be made. That we do want to learn, and with some guidance, professional help, coaching, there are good books out there on family systems theory. You can write to me and ask me about books on that, and I'll be happy to share them with you. And I have a listing of resources. You can send me an email to my email address. You can go to my website and send me a note and say, hey, Jerry, I'd like resources from the video you mentioned. And with those, you can begin to learn. And reading can make a big difference. And you can do audiobooks and listen to them. It does take some work. It's a road less traveled, but it's very much a road worth traveling. I was asked to talk a little bit about the connection between systems anxiety, or hidden anxiety, and PTSD and CPTSD. Many who grow up in dysfunctional families, abusive families, alcoholic, narcissistic families, grow up and develop complex PTSD or chronic PTSD. Complex is the word that's used. What's the difference between CPTSD and PTSD? PTSD is like jumping from a third floor out of a burning building. It's something you'd never forget. It's something that would traumatize you and probably be really, really, very much a part of your life for a long time. That one event. CPTSD is jumping one floor out of a building that has a fire alarm that goes off every day of your childhood, but rarely does the building burn down. It's just a constant, chronic, lower level trauma, and they can be higher level traumas, that's just over and over and over, getting beaten once a week. Some we're beaten every day. And it occurs and occurs and occurs, and that chronic or complex PTSD really does produce a lot of anxiety. Now, that produces acute anxiety as well as hidden chronic anxiety. So it's going to produce both, for sure. And so, that acute anxiety, we fear, everything or fear many things. We're a prisoner to that anxiety. Whenever we hear a fire alarm, we have a startle response. And so that's that acute anxiety that we experience. Chronic or hidden anxiety, that's the anxiety that holds us hostage and blinds us, and we're a slave to the system anxiety, so that we learn and we get modeled, imprinted, all of those kinds of words for how the system operates. And that becomes our hidden anxiety that can be triggered at any time. When we have this CPTSD or PTSD and we become adults, we can destroy relationships, family and friends relationships. We do all kinds of things because we are so triggered. PTSD, is like having anxiety on a 12 on a 10 scale. And CPTSD can also feel that way also. But it also can be like just a chronic 6 all the time. This is when And this is where we want to work with folks to help them go from a 12 down to an 8 on a 10 scale. And that can make a big difference in someone's life. Or CPTSD can be at an 8 and we bring it down to a 5. That can really make a big difference if your baseline gets lowered. The other thing I want to mention about PTSD and CPTSD is that if you work on self and you work on this hidden anxiety that I'm talking about, if you work on that, that fuels, that will help keep from fueling the CPTSD and the PTSD so much. The more we work on hidden anxiety, the more our overall calmness level is. And so we're not going to be as triggered. It's really hard to be triggered, then triggered. We get triggered by, you don't love me, which triggers you. Then, mom goes, you don't love me, and then she has her hand up, and you get into PTSD or CPTSD, and you're wincing because you think you're going to get hit. She's not going to hit you as an adult, but you now have both pingings going on. If we can reduce one or the other, that can help us tremendously. And so I like to help people work on that hidden anxiety and help them become more of themselves. The problems, reactivity and misbehavior and emotional triggering is often not near the symptom. And when we're talking about how can I identify hidden anxiety, where should I, quote, look for it? Where do you look? If it's hidden, if it's unaware, well, then should we just forget it? No, we're going to look for it. And we're going to see its remnants, and we're going to see the thread that's sticking out, and we're going to pull that thread so we can find out about that hidden anxiety. And again, if we have problems, we often think the problem is the problem. But no, it's often not near the symptom, which is the problem. A nagging husband to a wife. Nagging husband nags and nags and nags to the wife. The problem is not near the marriage, nor is it near the wife. It's nearer to the upset, the hidden anxiety and or rejection or shame from family of origin. And that anxiety that we feel down there gets pinged, and we have rejection, shame, guilt, and out of that we might nag. If we focus on the nagging, we're going to miss what produces the nagging. So whenever there's a problem, don't look at the problem, look at underneath it or somewhere else. Because if you stay focused on the problem, you're going to miss the root and the gold that's underneath that explains why this is happening. The wife rejects the husband's sexual advances. Well, I just don't feel like having sex anymore. I don't like having sex with him. Now, is that a marital problem? Well, sure, it's a marital problem, and it affects their relationship. I'm not an idiot. I realize that affects the marriage. But is that the problem? No, it's a symptom of the problem. Because it's not near the marriage. It's not as near the husband's lack of intimacy skills, which he does lack. So that's a real issue. I'm not denying that. But the real depth or root of that problem is nearer to the family of origin, beginning of this hidden anxiety, where mom said, no one will ever want you. You're such an ugly duckling. Sex is shameful and bad. It's much nearer to that than to your husband's lack of intimacy skills. But guess what we're going to focus on? My husband just cannot be intimate. I don't feel good with him, so I don't want to have sex with him. And so we're focusing on that and missing something that's way older and more hidden. The friends who invite everyone but you, and then you cut them off. Say, well, my friends are going to invite me. Well, screw them. I'm not going to be friends with them anymore. The problem is not near the friends, though nobody wants to not be invited while everybody else is invited. I realize that. It's a real issue, but it's not the root problem. It's not near the oversight. In fact, it could have even been an oversight, but it could be intentional too. I'm not saying it can't be. But it's more near our family's triggered anxiety, in which there is abandonment, rejection, anger. It's much more near that than it is near the friends who have not invited you as they invited everybody else. Another way we can start to identify hidden anxiety: when we can't stay calm and thoughtful and mature and detached and self-differentiated. When you can't do that, there's probably old hidden anxiety that has not been addressed, and it's propelling you to act. And so we are experiencing that old anxiety from our trauma, our issues, growing up, and the anxiety we are still holding from that system. We're still holding that anxiety from all the way back there. And it will cause us to push and pull and move and make decisions and think certain ways, because that anxiety is still operating in us. And that's why I talk about, so many people want to get out of their family, and I talk about, well, let's get your family out of you. That's getting that hidden anxiety out of you that was formed long ago. That's what we want to do. Get our family out of us. So my advice is, when you have a problem, stop looking at the misdirection or the sleight of hand of the magician. He's saying, look over here while he's doing something over here. And he's moving this so you'll put your attention there while he's doing his trick over here. And then goes, ta-da! And it was the misdirection that made it magical. That's what it meant. Well, I didn't even see that. Because he wanted you to look over there. Hidden anxiety will push you to look over there and not at it. Hidden anxiety wants to stay hidden. So look at it, not over there. I will ask sometimes when I have a problem and say, well, this is the problem. And then I'll say, okay, now this is not the problem. So what is? I know this is how I formulate the problem, but that's probably not the problem. So what is? To begin to think outside the box. I want to, I've told certain people, and in fact, there was one person I was advising who runs a company, and he's got two departments warring with each other. And, excuse me just a second. He's got two departments that are warring with each other, and they cannot agree, and they're blaming each other for the problem. Well, customer service said that sales doesn't do this. Well, customer service. Well, sales doesn't do this. And he's caught in the middle. And each of them have some valid points. I mean, it's not crazy. They're not ridiculous points. But I suggested to him, I would tend to doubt if that was the problem. I would tend to doubt if that was the problem, the way everybody is formulating it. You might want to get them together and say, if the problem, customer service, was not sales, and sales, if customer service was not the problem, how would you formulate the problem now? Well, you're just telling me to formulate a problem that doesn't exist. Oh no, it certainly exists. It's just I'm not so sure the way it's existing and the way we're looking at it is what the real problem is. And so there are other questions we can ask. For example, sales, what are you anxious about? For customer service, what are you worried about? What are you anxious about? Let's talk about the hidden anxiety, not how sales is causing you to be, and sales how customer service is causing you to be. Let's talk about what you're anxious about. They may be two different things. They may be the same thing, but at least we're going to get underneath it rather than just staying stuck in the same formulation and being entranced or staying in a trance. And we've talked about trance in my other videos. We just stay entranced by it, or we are mesmerized by it. I can't think of any other way but the way I'm thinking about it. I wanted to share with you a process that I use to uncover, identify, explore, and challenge and reduce hidden anxiety and systems anxiety. Kind of my own personal way of doing that. And the first thing I might do is say, well, why am I not calm? This event has happened, this reaction has happened, this interaction with a person, this whatever it is, job loss, it could be any event in life. Why am I not calm? Why am I reactive? What is my anxiety? Why am I feeling and acting like a child or not my age? Because I feel like I want to be reactive. And I just had a client today. She said, I just wanted to slap my mother, which of course is a childlike response to that frustration. She wouldn't slap her mother. She's not going to slap her mother. But just in her fantasy, she wants to. And she's not acting her age. Because she can't act her age, so she's just reacting out of this inner child. Why am I feeling mad? Fearful? What am I feeling? And again, particularly, why am I not calm? Because I should be calm right now, no matter what happens. Because not being calm doesn't solve much of anything. I realize there's a healthy side to fight and flight. I understand our fear is there to help us with survival and all of those things. So I'm not saying we're going to stop any of that process. If a dog's running towards me to tear off my leg, I'm probably going to have some fight or flight and have some anxiety and probably should get the heck out of there or do something to defend myself. But I'm talking about the normal life interactions, relationship interactions. And again, I begin to look at, this situation is pinging my anxiety, which is producing this fear of rejection or fear of abandonment. It's an old anxiety that is now being pinged. And I fear rejection from parents or friends or a boss. And so now I'm starting to get a little more understanding of it. So hidden anxiety gets pinged. Fear, rejection, and other feelings get pinged. I then act. I avoid my boss or my friend or my parent, or I get angry at my husband or wife in preparation for that reactivity. So I start to be an observer and a researcher. I start to step outside and look at what am I feeling and what am I doing. I'm going to look at this from a 30,000 foot view. I want to get some objectivity. And so you don't have to stop doing all you're doing. Just watch what you're doing. I felt pinged and I didn't feel calm. Then I did this. Then I did that. Then I wanted to do this. Now we're starting to have an understanding of the pattern. And that pattern can give us lots of information. And again, we then, first start to identify we have some anxiety. We're being pinged. I'm feeling this. Secondly, we explore how this hidden anxiety and feelings and thoughts work in the system. If I am triggered right now and feel fear of abandonment, I will act this way in the system. Now, why? Who benefits and who loses? Who is helped? How am I helped? How are they helped by me acting this way? How am I not helped? How are they not helped when I act this way, a particular way? So my hidden anxiety and fear of rejection is there, for example, to keep my parents calm and in control so they don't have to feel anxious in their fear of rejection, and it will keep our enmeshment going. So it all feels all lovey-dovey. So my fear of rejection or fear of abandonment keeps us all happy in the same bed. And even though it's uncomfortable for me, it really can ping their anxiety too. But overall, it keeps us all, the homeostasis, the equilibrium, it keeps that going. And it keeps the system's anxiety down and dormant. And we always want to keep that system's anxiety down and dormant. We don't want to mess with that. But that's exactly the thing we should mess with. That's exactly the thing we want to work on to reduce our anxiety and increase our sense of self. And if we look at it, if I have a fear of anxiety, then we can begin to kind of reframe that and think about it in a premeditative way. They sometimes say that, well, if I get rejected, so what? If I get rejected, it's not a big deal. Really, rejection in and of itself is not that big a deal. You don't change the composition of your body. It doesn't eat your brain out from the inside out. It doesn't do any of that if you get rejected. Rejection is something they are doing to themselves by pushing me away. That's what rejection is. It's something someone else is doing for them. We keep thinking they're rejecting us. Well, that's that grandiose, negative grandiosity, that someone's rejecting me just for me to be the center of the universe and be rejected. No, they're rejecting you because they don't accept themselves. They reject themselves. And they are doing it to themselves because they're pushing you away and worsening the relationship between the two of you. Now, it's only worsening if I'm not going to go into that. That's a longer discussion. I'll wait on that. So, rejection cannot add or detract anything from myself. If you reject me, it's not going to make my pants fall down. Nothing horrible is going to happen. Am I saying I love being rejected and I think rejection is a wonderful thing to have happen? No, of course it's not. But it's not catastrophic. And in fact, I don't know what it's going to do. It doesn't shoot me in the stomach. It doesn't eat my brain out. It doesn't make my fingernails fall off. It's just rejection. Okay, can I live with that? I'm going to have to see if I can live with that or not. If I can't live with that, then I need to go back again, as we talked about. Where is it that avoiding rejection at all costs began? So that I can unplug that piece that keeps that anxiety there. And it's helpful at that point, don't absorb, observe. As I've been trying to say through a lot of videos, keep your observation, not your absorbing. To view your hidden anxiety, feelings, and thoughts in a systems way, we look at that, and again, that's what we're doing. How does it play in the system? How does my feeling guilty function in the system? How does my being depressed function in the system? How does me hating myself function in the relationship system with my parents, with my friends? How does it work? Because it does work. It is something that is working within that. What do these feelings do for them? What do these feelings do for me? What does this anxiety do for the system? What are the roles that these play in the system? And so we look at ourselves, not just at ourselves, when we think about our feelings. I have a fear of abandonment. Okay, fear of abandonment. Now, how does the fear of abandonment operate in this system? Who does it help? Who does it not? What does it do for me? What does it not do for me? And in fact, that was one of the earliest questions a family systems theory professor told me, and I've shared that in other videos, when I was a pastor, and I went to him and said, I'm just so depressed, I'm so upset, I'm just feeling impotent, I can't do anything in the church, I just don't think anything's going to get better. Anything's going to get better. And he said, well, Jerry, you seem depressed. Yeah, I do feel depressed. What role does your depression play in your church? From that question, I've never been the same since. You mean my depression plays a role in the church? Oh, absolutely. And then we began to explore how it plays a role in the church. How it keeps certain people safe, how it keeps certain people Teflon, where they can't be affected, how it keeps me ineffective, because that helps and affects the system in a certain way if I'm ineffective. We explored lots of things. So that's where you begin to look, how does this play? How does this work in the system? And this is the practice of learning to stand outside the system, outside the pain, outside the reactivity, even for a little while, can provide a huge relief and show you a lot about how it works in the system, which will give you greater calmness and less hidden anxiety. Be a researcher. Tell a story. And I think it's good even to tell the story. Okay, Jerry's a pastor in the church and he's depressed. Now, when he's depressed, these people will continue to act the way they act, and Jerry will feel inadequate to be able to confront that. In fact, he's afraid of confronting it, so his depression keeps him from confronting it. He feels down, he feels depressed, and he's just going to stay over there unhappy. And so now I'm telling the story of how that works. And now I'm starting to see it more clearly. Thirdly, we want to revisit the scene of the crime. We want to revisit and heal the source of hidden anxiety and the source of those painful feelings. We will revisit my earliest experience of feeling rejected, let's say, or abandoned. This was our first ping in which we began to hold the anxiety and operate out of that anxiety. Now our anxiety has gone up and we're holding it. And then we just hold it the rest of our lives and hold it right there. And so where did we begin to hold that? And so with a coach or therapist, and often after you've learned these things yourself, you can begin to do it yourself. Go back and release that rejection. Release the perpetrators of the rejection. Reframe the rejection event. Take your adult child or self back to reparent your inner child's pain. You can do the grief work of realizing you're not going to have the parent, sibling, family, boss, husband, wife that you've always dreamed and wanted. So you can do the grief work over that so you can become more yourself. You go back to move forward. This will release a lot of hidden anxiety that has been dormant for so long. And if you can release a lot of that hidden anxiety, you then become calmer overall. Now, you might have an anxiety disorder, but at least you're not going to have all the hidden anxiety that's going to fuel the anxiety disorder even more, or the CPTSD, by self-differentiation and doing the work, family systems work. Calmness will prevail, and we won't be feeling pushed and pulled and doing the pendulum life, which I've talked about in other videos, where we're always being pushed and pulled in relationship systems. And we want to steal the power out of that hidden anxiety. I know you're being patient and listening to me. It won't be much longer, and I'll let you go. But I wanted to share these comments with you and do this extended video for you. And then fourthly, we differentiate from the system strategically. Next time I talk to mom and dad and they say, "You never come to see us," which triggers my anxiety, I don't know what to say, I fear rejection of whatever I say. By the way, they're already feeling the anxiety, getting pinged, and they feel fear of rejection, which is why they said it. Which is why they said it to you. And they say this because of their anxiety and their fear of abandonment and neediness. And that's why when you go to family gatherings, you can just have this pinging wave of anxiety that's just happening the whole time. It's just going like this the whole time throughout. And if I were to take you and put a one-way mirror and we see a family having Thanksgiving, I would go, there, do you see it moving there? Then it moves back over here. Now it's over here, and it's all, everybody is getting pinged, which is why family gatherings are so interesting and also can be painful. So, parents are not comfortable with themselves. They need me to be triggered so I don't leave them. That's the purpose of that anxiety. So I don't leave them, and they fear I won't care about them anymore. Well, then I get triggers. I don't know what to say. Why do they keep asking me every time, "You never come to see us"? Now you will be coming to see us again soon, won't you? And you do that, and you kind of go, "I have," and oh, now I feel guilty. Maybe I'm not seeing. So there's that anxiety getting pinged. Whereas going, wait a minute, when I see them, I need to talk with them and stay in an I position, or a reversal, but at least an I position. Mom and Dad, I come and see you just the right amount of time, Mom and Dad, right amount of times. I'm sorry that doesn't feel right for you. But I'm coming the right amount of times for me, but I'm sorry it doesn't feel right for you. And that must feel uncomfortable. Now I'm not fixing them. I'm not diagnosing them. I'm not saying because you guys are neurotically broken and you need to see a therapist. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just addressing the anxiety, and I'm not going to be anxious. This is fine with me. I'm sorry it's not fine with you. That must feel bad. I do care about you. Love you guys. I will see you soon. Resistance then starts in the system, of course, because now that you've said that, mom and dad are going, wait a minute, wait. They can't just say that and go. So they're going to have to resist this because we don't want you to be okay in your own skin and be okay with us wanting you to come visit us more. And this could be the boss, your husband, it's in all relationship systems. And so they immediately start on the process of, hey, Mary, how can you say that? Basically, the first stage of resistance is, you're wrong, Mary. You're wrong for saying that. You're wrong for thinking that way. You need to keep this anxiety system the way it's always been. Keep that hidden anxiety where it's at. And you are just trying to get out of that quicksand. Don't you dare get out of the quicksand of hidden anxiety. You stay right in that with us. So you're being wrong. Now you can either be reactive and say, I'm not wrong. I did say the right thing. Now I'm just defending myself again, which just keeps us all in the same quicksand. So then you repeat it again. I know, Mom, I'm visiting just the right amount of times that I think is just right. I'm sorry if that's not... if that doesn't make you happy, I'm sorry about that. And then they say, second stage, who have you been talking to? You've been talking to that stupid therapist of yours? You know you should respect your parents more. Second stage, first stage is you are wrong. Second stage, you need to change. Third stage, you come to them and say, well, Mom, I know you've wanted me to come and see you more, but in a calm way, I know this is just the right amount of times for me. It's not for you. I'm very sorry about that. And it must not feel good to not have me come to see you more often. But that doesn't mean I'm going to change. I'm just saying, I'm being empathetic. I'm being self-differentiated and empathetic. And that's what we want to be as a mature grown adult. Self-differentiated and empathetic. And then they say, if you keep talking like that, we'll just stop having you come over for Sunday lunch. In other words, we'll cast you out. We'll set you adrift. And this is the third stage of change back or else. Or I'll stop paying for that car. Or I'll stop whatever levers of leverage that they have. If we can maintain our calmness beyond that, then a new synthesis occurs. And now the choice is in their hands. Accept the new you or lose you or push you away. And that's for them to decide. You don't get to decide that. This is the new me. You can take me this way or not. I would like to have a relationship with you. I don't want to be pushed away. I don't want to not have a relationship. But I'm afraid it's in your hands if you can't accept me. But I'm happy with the number of times I'm coming to see you, and I'm sorry it does not feel good. I really am sorry. I'm not saying that, sarcastically. We don't want to do, you never want to do reversals sarcastically. You do them sarcastically, it's your immaturity, not theirs. You say those things because you mean it. It must be upsetting for them who are needy, stuck in their anxiety, to fear you're going to abandon them. That really must be upsetting. I'm sure it is. I'm just telling them I'm sure it is upsetting. It's just I'm not the fix for it. You have to fix that another way. You'll have to fix you. These kinds of things that I've been talking about on the video today regarding hidden anxiety, and I hope I've made sense in at least a few things, and maybe you've gotten a few tidbits out of our session today, that it requires bravery and courage to choose to not operate out of hidden anxiety and the system's role for you. It takes bravery to begin to explore that, resist it, and begin to be different and act differently in a system. I'd never say it's just easy without any fear or concern. It is. It's hard work. But I'll tell you, it's a work that can be so rewarding and calming overall that you'll say, I've never regretted doing that. And I would have to say that for family systems. I've never regretted doing the hard work of self-differentiation in family systems. I will be doing it until the day I die, but I've never regretted starting on that journey. Learning to do this and these things that we've talked about can really lower dormant or hidden anxiety, lowering the level of anxiety we experience overall. Even if we have anxiety disorders, CPTSD, PTSD, generalized anxiety, all those things that require treatment and can require treatment, and there's plenty of videos out there to help you with that acute anxiety, we want to reduce that underlying hidden anxiety, chronic anxiety. Sometimes we're even required to go no contact with narcissistic family members, and doing this in a mature, intentional, self-differentiated way. We have to go no contact. Even if we tried to do all these other things to try to maintain the relationship, but it just failed to have it happen. But we're not in control of their illness or how well they are or not. So it comes to the point, often many times, it's like, are they pushing you away so much that you don't have any other choice but to go no contact? Rather than you just needed to go no contact and punish them. No. Are they so ill and are pushing you away so much that you may need to go no contact with them? And sometimes we do have to make that choice. All the things I was talking about today are things that would be prior to doing that kind of extreme choice. We are all learning to be emotional bullfighters. And that's where we want to be able to operate in the system so that the hidden anxiety, and when someone comes through to ping our anxiety, they go right on by us. And that's what we want to learn to do. Have them head toward the cape and move on by us and not gore us in the stomach. So we can learn to do that kind of bullfighting. Jiu-jitsu, there's all kinds of words you can use for that. And if we can begin to look at ourselves and take a look at our hidden anxiety, there are books about it by Roberta Gilbert, Harriet Lerner, Jenny Brown, Brene Brown, Michael Kerr, Murray Bowen. There are lots of good, Andrea Schara, Schara. I can send you a whole list of readings you can do to begin to get your mind thinking about hidden anxiety and how powerful it is. You can find me at www.jerrywiserelationshipsystems.com. You can email me, it's below in the comments. You can call me, my phone number is down there. And if you would like to work with me, I hope you'll be patient when you reach out to me. I have a lot of people reaching out. I'll get back with you, but be persistent. If you don't hear back from me, write back again or call me again because sometimes things can get lost in the technology. I've even had people send me and say, here, please Jerry, write me back from this, and then they put their wrong email address, and I have no way to get back with them. So be sure to be careful about that so I can get back with you. You can find me in those ways. I hope you'll subscribe to the YouTube channel you're watching right now. And I want to thank you for being patient all day and listening to me. And you have a great day. Take care.